In a series of decisions starting in 1976, the Supreme Court ruled that states could require a minor to inform her parents before getting an abortion. Parental involvement laws are now on the books in 44 states. The majority of these are strictly enforced. For teens with difficult home situations, these laws create an additional burden.
There certainly are some young women who, for a variety of reasons, and unfortunately physical abuse is one of them, that absolutely cannot tell their parents. And we talk to them then about judicial bypass. There are some counties in this state that have judges that are just absolutely opposed to abortion, no matter what the circumstances. And it drives some young women to either go to an incompetent abortion provider, an illegal provider, and they're still out there, or to try to do a home remedy. And there's still plenty of that going on in Alabama.
The majority of Americans support choice. They believe that a woman has a right to make her own decision. Opponents of abortion carry out their mission on two fronts. One is through state laws, where legislation is being passed that creates barriers for women seeking abortions. The other is through clinic protests. Before abortion was legal, many women died from self-induced abortions. Now, once again, hospital emergency rooms report treating women who resort to unsafe methods. Chris was a sociology major at a state university when she discovered she was pregnant. Like many women her age, she was not ready to have a child. Chris went to a clinic during a wave of protests.
I went down with her and we waited in the waiting room for I don't know how long. And there's people outside marching around. And she had a really bad experience there.
Chris became pregnant again after her birth control failed. She did not want to go back to a clinic because her first experience had been so frightening. Chris had been studying natural medicine and decided to use herbs as an abortifacient. Soon afterwards, she began to cramp.
When the cramping got really bad, she thought she was aborting. And she had gone into convulsions in the bathtub. Then they'd found out that she'd had an ectopic pregnancy, and that the cramping that she was feeling was that she'd been hemorrhaging, because they said that there was dried blood in and around her, in her uterus, that's what killed her.
The desperation level is already here. It's the young women, it's the poor women. It's the women who feel like they can't tell anybody, who feel so socially ostracized because of the dilemma that they find themselves in the first place. As the states pass more and more restrictive laws that make it harder and harder, that shrink access more and more, we see those numbers growing.
Anti-abortion actions are often motivated by religious beliefs. This woman was the chief administrator at a women's health center, which provided a full range of services, including adoption and abortion. Because of her work, she was threatened with excommunication from the Catholic Church.
All involved in the deliberate and successful effort to eject a non-viable fetus from the mother's womb incur excommunication.
The most frightening thing was, had it been another time, I would have been burned at the stake. I wouldn't have had a piece of paper to tell me you're no longer a Catholic, or you can no longer receive communion. But it's not going to silence me. And I'm going to continue to speak. And I want to be that force. I want to be that person that says, but we are affected by this. Women come to clinics like reproductive services and clinics other abortion providers across this country with the most incredible circumstances. And we treat them with respect, and we give them the quality medical care that they deserve.
Since the 1973 decision, the climate for abortion clinics has been volatile, with more than 12,000 incidents of disruption and terror. The most violent of these are 7 murders.
A man burst into a Planned Parenthood abortion clinic and opened fire with a rifle. Minutes later, an identical attack occurred at a second clinic a mile and a half away.
Violence at an abortion clinic in Florida.
He just went up, chased the doctor down, and just shot him point blank.
More than 80% of the counties in the United States have no providers. Those who offer the service face serious threats. Because dedicated doctors and clinic staff are willing to provide safe abortions, some women can still make that choice. The future of women's rights is built on the work of people who speak out and take a stand. People who believe that every woman should have the right to make her own choices, and that those choices should be protected.
I've worked with most of the doctors who've been killed. I knew them personally. When those horrible things happen, and we are feeling so isolated and so alone and so vulnerable, and I lock the door and walk out at night and think, maybe I just won't go back tomorrow. The face of my friend who died from a self-induced abortion comes to me. And I know if I don't come back the next day, there will be another one. Even as hard as we try, it's still going on.
After the firebombing in our office, our whole office and my family went through a lot of struggle about whether I should continue to do that. And for me, it was a combination of making my own decisions about my life and also having to make them because I am not alone. I have a family who I have to be sensitive to. Their emotions and their feelings are very important to me. And my child, I wanted him to understand that there are people in our lives that can harm us, and we need to be sensitive to that. And my husband worried a lot, did not want me to continue, and we had to talk, and he came around, interestingly enough, to the same thing that I came around, which is that if you don't live by what you believe, what are you living for?
As you've seen in this documentary, women's rights are at risk across the country. We need to work together to protect reproductive freedom. What's important is that each of us takes an active role. We've gathered some tools to help you live what you believe.